beloved chosen one. Heaven has pressed pause on everything just to reach you in this exact moment. This is not noise. This is not background. This is not coincidence. You're not hearing this because of an algorithm. You're hearing this because heaven spoke your name. There is a weight around you right now that isn't yours to carry. A heaviness trying to smother your joy. A spiritual fog trying to make you forget who you are. But listen, you are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not fighting through this by accident. An angel has gone ahead of you. The battle that nearly broke you. Heaven already had a plan in motion before you even cried out. Stop scrolling. You're not like the rest. You've been marked. You've been assigned. You've been seen. And right now, you are being reminded. You are standing in the crosshairs of something holy. You've walked through valleys you never told anyone about. You've survived attacks you shouldn't have. You've smiled through storms that would have crushed others. But the reason you didn't collapse, the reason you're still here, is because heaven issued a divine interruption on your behalf. There was an angel sent ahead of you. Before the breakdown. Before the betrayal. Before the tears. A heavenly being assigned, not just to defend you, but to prepare the way for you. That depression, it didn't have the final word. That loss, it couldn't stop what God had already started. That delay, it was only setting the stage. You were not meant to blend in. The warfare you faced has been tailored because your calling is not ordinary. What you carry terrifies the kingdom of darkness. Hell threw its best at you, thinking it would silence you. But here you are, listening, breathing, rising. Again, Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." God's peace is not temporary. It doesn't flicker like a dying flame. It settles in you like a fortress, reminding every storm that it cannot stay. Right now, that peace is being spoken over your life, over your thoughts, over your situation. That peace is not earned, it is given. And you, chosen one, are being given it right now. Let that peace confront the voices in your head. Let it silence every whisper that told you you're too late, too broken, too far gone. You are not late, you're right on time. You are not broken, you are being rebuilt. You are not abandoned, you were assigned, chosen, covered. You thought it was over, didn't you? You thought what they did to you would finish you. But heaven said otherwise. Your story was interrupted by grace. Your ending was rewritten by mercy. God did not consult your past to decide your future. That moment you almost gave up, heaven saw it. That moment you said, "God, I can't do this anymore," heaven answered with movement. An angel was dispatched. A path was cleared. Your name was spoken in heaven's throne room. You were not forgotten, you were fought for. And now, that same voice that whispered your name is calling again. Not for religion, not for performance, but for surrender, for obedience, for alignment. The kind of alignment that turns chaos into clarity, that breaks chains silently. That rebuilds what no therapist, no friend, no amount of distraction could. Heaven is not asking you to be perfect. It's calling you to be present, to respond, to say, "I hear you," because today, something is shifting. You may not feel it fully yet, but spiritually, something is unlocking. Something is being loosed over you. This message didn't find you. It was sent for you. And now, chosen one, you have a decision to make. Not tomorrow, not later. Now, you have tasted enough of the pain. It is time to walk in promise. You've circled the same mountain long enough. It is time to rise, to say yes, to choose destiny over delay. Don't wait for confirmation. This is the confirmation. That tightness in your chest, that tug in your spirit, that is the presence of God. Brushing past your excuses and calling your spirit to attention. You were born for more than survival. You were created to disrupt hell and carry heaven. So let the heavens record your response. Type 777 in the comments as a sign you are in alignment. That you recognize this moment is not man-made, but heaven-sent. You're not just listening, you're responding. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Not just to receive content, but to stay connected to this flow of anointing. Share this with someone who feels forgotten. Like this if you know you're chosen. Let the algorithm be hijacked by glory. This is not noise. This is not random. This is your moment. Comment 777 if your spirit hears it. You weren't left alone. Even when it felt like silence. Even when it seemed like God turned his face. Even when your prayers hit a ceiling, you were never forsaken. There was movement in heaven the moment your heart whispered what your mouth was too tired to say. The isolation you endured wasn't abandonment, it was preservation. When others walked away, when the betrayal hit hardest, when you sat in rooms full of people and still felt invisible, the enemy whispered, "See, you're forgotten." But he lied. You were hidden. You didn't recognize it then. But angels were stationed around you, not the kind with gentle harps and soft light, but warriors, fierce, burning with the fire of the throne room, assigned to you, not for decoration, for protection. They stood guard while your spirit slept. They fought when your body gave up. They warred when your faith was flickering. They didn't abandon post. There were attacks you never saw because they never reached you. Accidents that never happened. Words spoken against you that fell powerless. Plans from the pit that crumbled before they took shape. Not because you were lucky, but because you were covered. There is a divine seal on your life that hell cannot duplicate. A covering that cannot be earned, only received. You walk with it unknowingly some days, but the spirit realm knows. That's why the attacks seem to come out of nowhere. That's why spiritual pressure would rise right before your breakthrough, because they saw the light on you even when you didn't. Your pain was not proof of God's absence. It was proof of your potential. Heaven saw the crushing, but it also saw the oil being formed from it. The enemy hoped you'd confuse pain with punishment, but it was preparation. Every night you cried was a night heaven counted. Every moment you questioned your worth, God reaffirmed your identity in secret. You may not have heard his voice in those seasons, but he never stopped moving on your behalf. When you laid down and didn't want to get back up, he stood. When you lost your appetite for everything good, he fed your spirit anyway. When you doubted your ability to go on, he preserved the breath in your lungs. And it wasn't just preservation. It was positioning. What looked like being stuck was actually being held. What looked like rejection was really redirection. What looked like being forgotten was actually divine timing, aligning beneath the surface. You don't need to understand everything, but you do need to know this. You are still alive for a reason. You are still here because the covering never lifted. Not even when you thought you failed beyond recovery. Not even when shame tried to bury you. Not even when you started believing what the enemy said about you. Chosen one. There were moments where heaven went silent so your spirit could learn to listen. It wasn't punishment. It was training. It wasn't neglect, it was development. In that quiet, your discernment sharpened. Your spirit learned to pick up signals from God that can't be heard in crowds or comfort. And the angel that was assigned to you, he never left. He didn't retreat when you ran. He didn't withdraw when you doubted. He didn't flinch when you fell. Because heaven doesn't assign angels based on your strength, it assigns them based on God's purpose. That angel went ahead of you. Yes, but he also stood beside you. When you didn't know how to pray, he carried the groans of your heart to the throne. When your words were weak, he warred with fire on your behalf. When you nearly lost your mind, he stood between you and madness. And now, that same presence is reactivating your awareness. You're beginning to realize that you were never walking through shadows alone, that every narrow escape was intentional, that the people who left were meant to, that the rejection saved you, that the stillness shaped you, that the silence was holy. As the Holy Word reminds us in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 7, the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Heaven's presence doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply stays. It stays when friends walk out. It stays when you question your value. It stays when the room goes quiet, and you're left wondering if you matter. That staying power is proof that you are not just chosen, you are carried. God didn't wait until you cleaned yourself up to cover you. He covered you in the worst moments. He stayed when your heart was at its hardest. He shielded you when you tried to self-destruct. And through all of it, an angel stood by. You are not starting from scratch. You are walking forward from preservation. You have survived what should have taken you out. And whether you see it or not, the atmosphere around you has shifted because the angel assigned to you was never dismissed. Before the pain arrived, before the storm hit, before you even knew what you'd need, your angel was already in place. You were not caught off guard. The betrayal may have shocked you, but it didn't surprise heaven. The loss may have broken your heart, but it didn't break your covering. What attacked your peace? What crushed your trust? What made you doubt if God was really watching it was seen in advance? Chosen one. What you need to understand is this: your suffering was not random. The spiritual resistance that rose against you, it wasn't because you were weak, it was because you were dangerous. Hell doesn't wage war where there is no threat. And the enemy has seen the mark on you since the day you were born. You may have felt like you were under attack, but in the spirit, you were being escorted. Angels had already been sent ahead of you to shield your name, your mind, your assignment. That moment when everything fell apart, that was the exact moment your angel stood taller. It wasn't just defense, it was strategy. Heaven doesn't just react, it prepares. Before the enemy laid out the trap, heaven had already written your escape plan. You didn't fall into chaos. God allowed certain things to shake, so what wasn't built on him would collapse. That rejection, it kept you from accepting a counterfeit. That delay, it saved you from stepping into something premature. That heartbreak, it reminded you where your healing truly comes from. Let me say it clearly. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. God did not allow the pain to break you. He allowed it to build you. And the angel that went ahead of you, He didn't just block what was sent to destroy you, he made way for the promise that's coming next. Sometimes the route to your purpose must be cleared with warfare. Sometimes the evidence of your assignment is how violently hell tries to reroute you. The higher your calling, the more strategic the attacks. But every plot the enemy planned, God flipped it. What was meant to destroy you became a stepping stone. The very thing that should have buried you is now behind you. You walked through fire and came out without the smell of smoke. That's not normal. That's favor. As revealed in the words of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17, "No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you." This is not poetic encouragement. This is legal authority in the Spirit. You are not fighting for victory, you are fighting from victory. And the angel sent ahead of you was never just guarding your past, he was establishing your future. But now, you are standing at a crossroads. A spiritual shift is already in motion. The same God who prepared your escape is now preparing your elevation. You didn't go through all of this just to survive. You endured it so you could carry weight. You were trusted with the crushing because heaven knew it would not destroy you, it would transform you. This is the moment many shrink back. Right when things begin to turn, fear creeps in. Fear of responsibility. Fear of visibility. Fear of stepping into something bigger than what you're used to. But this isn't the time to hide. This is the moment where you say, even if I'm nervous, I won't go silent. You see, the angel already made the first move. But now, heaven waits for your response. Make this your declaration. Not just a comment, but a mark in the heavenlies. Type, "I choose glory." Why this phrase? Because glory is not comforted, is weight, purpose, and assignment. Choosing glory means choosing obedience over ease. It means choosing alignment over popularity. It means you no longer live to please darkness. You live to reflect divine fire. When you say, "I choose glory," you're saying, "I accept the weight of this anointing. I accept the call, even if it costs me comfort. I won't settle for survival. I choose transformation. I won't shrink back. I'll step forward, even when I don't feel ready." And heaven hears that. This isn't just about you typing something below. It's about a kingdom transaction. It's about a divine yes. The kind that activates the next stage of your assignment. The kind that summons protection, provision, and prophetic clarity. The kind that confirms you're done wandering. So type it now, boldly, faithfully, prophetically. I choose glory. Now, there were orders concerning you. Long before you cried for help, long before you felt the weight of this war, heaven issued a command. Touch not this one. You may not have heard it, but all of creation did. You may not have seen it, but every spiritual force recognized it. You are not just protected, you are forbidden territory. This isn't just sentiment. It's spiritual law. There are ranks and realms, visible and invisible. And in those unseen places, your name was placed on a list. Not a list of the forgotten, but a list of the guarded, of the appointed, of the marked. The battles you've endured, they weren't because you were unprotected. They were because the enemy was told what he couldn't do. There were lines he couldn't cross, seasons he couldn't cut short, attacks he couldn't finish. He got close. Yes, you felt the heat, but he never had permission to take you out. There were orders issued around your name. In the spirit, Your life has boundaries, not drawn by your experience, but by God's authority. And these boundaries are enforced by angels who do not disobey the throne. You've walked through fire, but only as far as grace allowed. You've stood at the edge, but mercy pulled you back every time. You didn't make it this far by instinct. You didn't survive that storm on intuition. You survived because there was a heavenly perimeter set up around your journey. You were not alone in that hospital room. You weren't isolated in your breakdown. You weren't uncovered in your rebellion, even when you drifted. The orders didn't change. You are not being watched casually. You are being guarded intentionally. And the reason the pressure has intensified lately is because the weight of your assignment has increased. Heaven's strategy concerning your life is unfolding, and when heaven starts moving, darkness gets nervous. The angel sent ahead of you didn't just prepare a path, is holding open doors that no man can shut. He is silencing voices you don't even know were rising against you. He is carrying instructions written by the hand of God concerning you. Not only did heaven speak concerning your future, it commanded concerning your safety. The word of God declares through the psalmist in chapter 91, verse 11, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." There it is, he will command. That means your safety is not a suggestion, it is a divine order. The angelic protection you've experienced is not random. It is the fulfillment of a command from heaven's throne. And when God gives a command, no darkness can override it. That's why some things never touched you. That's why some words lost their power the moment they were spoken. That's why some plans failed before they launched. It wasn't luck, it was command. And when angels obey, they obey without hesitation. This should shift the way you see your past. You weren't just lucky to survive, you were divinely preserved. And it should change how you step into your future. You're not moving into chaos, you're walking through prepared places. Places that have already been cleansed of sabotage. Places that are already guarded by unseen forces. Places your feet are being guided to. But with great covering comes great responsibility. And this is where many stop. They enjoy the protection, but reject the purpose. But you, chosen one, are not called to play it safe. You are not here just to be covered. You are here to be commissioned. Those same angels who guarded you are now clearing the way for you to operate in your assignment. The protection was never just about survival, it was about timing. And now, the timing is turning. Heaven's clock concerning you is striking a new hour. The pause is over. The call is active. And the orders have shifted from shielding to sending. So what does that mean? It means the enemy's access is even more restricted now. It means what used to confuse you will now clarify you. It means you'll sense when the atmosphere changes because your sensitivity has been sharpened through fire. It means the very demons that once tormented you now know they cannot return because orders have gone out again. New ones, fresh ones, specific to this season, specific to your maturity, specific to your mission. The angel who was assigned to your preservation is still with you, but now he walks ahead to war on your behalf. Not just protect. There is a difference between being kept and being commissioned. You were kept in your weakness. You are now being commissioned in your strength. You were guarded while you healed. You are now being guided while you move. This is not the time to look back and ask, why me? The question now is, what now? And the answer is simple. Follow the orders already spoken over your life. You are not stepping into uncertainty. You are walking in fulfillment. This is not a coincidence. It's a signal. What you're hearing right now is not ordinary. It is heaven's confirmation, clear, intentional, and right on time. You didn't stumble across this message by luck. You didn't arrive here by accident. You are listening because heaven whispered your name again, and everything else had to pause until you heard it. This is a divine alignment moment. Your spirit recognizes it, even if your mind can't fully explain it. You've been asking for clarity. You've been begging for confirmation. You've been crying out in silence, God, give me a sign. And now here it is. You're not crazy for feeling different. You're not wrong for sensing. You don't belong in certain places anymore. That inner tension, that restlessness, that quiet knowing, it's not emotional, it's prophetic. The shift isn't coming, it's already begun. This is why the pressure intensified. This is why some relationships suddenly shattered. This is why your spirit no longer tolerates what you used to accept. Because when God gets ready to elevate you, He exposes anything in your life that cannot go with you. And He does it with precision. You prayed for purpose. But purpose doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It comes wrapped in clarity. And clarity often arrives in the form of disruption. Chosen one, your discomfort is not dysfunction, it is divine redirection. You've outgrown places that used to fit. You've matured beyond atmospheres that once entertained you. And now, heaven is issuing a gentle but unshakable instruction. Move forward. The angel that went ahead of you didn't clear a path for you to sit still. He cleared it so you would walk boldly. You may feel uncertain, but faith doesn't require certainty. Faith just requires movement. As the Word of God reveals in the second letter to Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 7, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Now, there will be moments where nothing around you will confirm what your spirit knows. But move anyway. There will be times when your bank account says no, but God's voice says yes. Move anyway. There will be days when fear screams louder than vision, but still move anyway. This moment is not about logic, it's about obedience. It's about trusting that what God started, He is able to finish. And trust is tested most, not when you're in crisis, but when you're in transition, because transitions reveal whether you're following a calling or chasing comfort. Listen carefully. This may be the part where you try to rationalize what you feel, where your old mindset says, this is too much, this is too fast, maybe later. But later is a luxury that purpose rarely grants. When heaven speaks, delay is disobedience in disguise. If your heart is stirred right now, don't silence it. If your spirit feels the fire, don't put it out. This is the hour where your destiny demands a response. And it's okay if that response starts small. Maybe it's a whisper. Maybe it's a tear. Maybe it's that subtle yes your soul says when you know heaven is near. That's enough. Because God doesn't need your strength. He needs your surrender. If this message has spoken directly to your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let the ripple go beyond you. Someone out there is still in the fog you've come through, still questioning what you now know deep in your spirit. And if you've been fed, if your soul has been stirred, and you're wondering how to be part of what heaven is doing through this space, then let your faith respond. Some will respond in prayer, others through sharing, and a few, as the Spirit leads, through giving. This isn't about money, it's about mission. Every offering, no matter the size, becomes a part of the movement. It makes sure this message keeps finding the ones it was sent for. It keeps the oil flowing. It keeps the light reaching the dark. If you feel prompted to sow into this, do it as an act of alignment. Not obligation, not pressure, just purpose. And if this isn't your moment to give, that's okay too. Your like, your subscribe, and your share are powerful seeds in themselves, and they speak loudly in the spirit. This isn't a platform, it's a portal, one heaven uses to reach his chosen ones, and if you're here, you are one of them. So, stay connected, keep leaning in, and let your obedience echo further than your emotions ever could, because this moment is not about information, it's about transformation. And this message didn't find you, it was sent to you. Heaven's blueprint for you was never vague. Before your name was known on earth, it was spoken in heaven. Before you ever faced rejection, God had already written redemption. Before you cried your first tear, a plan was in motion that not even your failures could cancel. This is not poetic, it's divine reality. Your life has been architected by the hand of the eternal, and though you may have felt forgotten in the waiting, I need you to hear this. You are right on schedule, not behind, not lost, not random. You are exactly where you need to be for what heaven is about to release. The path hasn't been easy, but it's been exact. Every delay has served a purpose. Every detour was permitted to develop you. Every disappointment was a divine filter, not a failure. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. Because where God is taking you, casual faith will not carry you, and shallow roots won't survive the weight of glory. The angel that went ahead of you wasn't sent to make life convenient. He was sent to align things, to move obstacles, to set divine appointments in motion, to disturb anything that would block the full release of your destiny. You've been feeling things shift, and that's because something has shifted, not just around you, but within you. What used to interest you now feels empty. What used to distract you now seems dull. What used to feed your flesh now starves your spirit. This isn't burnout. It's not depression. It's not confusion. It's transformation. You are being recalibrated by heaven, redirected into purpose. And the places that once accepted you now reject you, not because you're broken, but because you've outgrown them. God will not let you shrink into what He's trying to break you out of. The blueprint demands movement, and if you won't move voluntarily, life will begin to dislodge you. The discomfort is not the enemy, it's the evidence. You're not wandering, you're being positioned. Positioned for something your bloodline never walked in. Positioned for a door that doesn't make sense on paper. Positioned for conversations you didn't even know you were qualified for. And no, you don't feel ready. But heaven is not looking for the ready. Heaven is looking for the willing, the yielded, the ones who say, I'll go, even if I don't feel capable. Because the blueprint isn't about your comfort, it's about your yes. As it is written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 21, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. No, you had plans. You had timelines. You had dreams you thought would unfold a certain way. But God is not obligated to fulfill what you imagined. He is committed to completing what He authored. And what He's authored for you, it doesn't need hype. It carries weight. It doesn't need crowds, it carries glory. It doesn't need validation. It already has heaven's signature. The people who left you weren't part of the blueprint. The doors that closed weren't coded into your calling. The delays didn't derail the promise, they preserved it. And the angel assigned to you, he's already where you're going. That's why you've been feeling the pull in your spirit. That's why the old rhythms no longer fit. You're being summoned into prepared places. And every battle you fought has brought you closer to divine precision. You're not just drifting, you are being drafted into holy timing. So now, I want you to mark this moment, not just by listening but by declaring. Not with long words, just with a number. Comment: 444. Why 444? Because it represents open doors, divine alignment, and a new construction phase in the spirit. This is more than encouragement. It's a prophetic activation. When you type that number, you are saying, I come into agreement with the blueprint. I'm done resisting. I choose alignment. Oh, you're not typing it for luck. You're typing it because your spirit says, yes, that's for me. Oh, and as you type it, understand this. God is building something through you that will last beyond you. Generational chains are breaking. Cycles are ending. And your obedience is laying the first bricks of something eternal. You may not see the full picture, but you're standing on a foundation not built by man. The shaking you've been through has only revealed the strength of what cannot be moved. So take this in. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not off course. You are exactly where you need to before blueprints to become buildings. Type it now. 444. Not as superstition, but as a signal to heaven that you're in agreement. The battle got personal because your calling is real. There are assignments so powerful, so specific, that hell begins to tremble the moment you start to awaken. The warfare that wrapped itself around your life wasn't random. It was targeted. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you were chosen. And when a chosen one rises, systems tremble. The pain that showed up in your life wasn't accidental. It was strategic. It came to shut you down before you realized who you really are. It tried to bury your identity beneath shame, insecurity, distraction, and fear. It wasn't about the job you lost. It wasn't about the breakup. It wasn't even about the people who betrayed you. The target was your voice, your fire, your assignment. The devil has never feared your circumstances. He fears your awakening. He fears what happens when you realize that what you carry can't be replicated, imitated, or extinguished. He fears the day you wake up and say, enough. The day you stop apologizing for being different. The day you stop trying to blend in when you were born to stand apart. Hell doesn't fight the ordinary. It fights the anointed. And you, chosen one, carry something that hell cannot duplicate. Divine authority. Not because you're perfect, but because you're yielded. Not because you have it all together, but because heaven put its hand on you before you even knew how to pray. That's why the battle got so intense, because you began to stir. Even in your confusion, your presence started to disturb what had been settled for too long. Darkness does not panic over passive soul-sit, panics over awakened ones. Your hunger for more threatened the enemy's plans. Your prayer 7, the broken, inconsistent ones, began to cut through spiritual static. Your pain began to produce oil. Your tears started sowing seeds. And little by little, your wilderness became holy ground. That's when the attacks came stronger, not because you were failing, but because you were approaching breakthrough. That's how spiritual resistance works. It always hits hardest right before something breaks open. Think about it. The moment you decided to leave old patterns behind, suddenly, temptation increased. The moment you dared to believe again, suddenly, disappointment came knocking. The moment you took one small step toward obedience, suddenly, everything around you tried to pull you back. That's not coincidence. That's warfare. And still, you're here. Bruised, maybe. Tired. Definitely. But still standing. Still listening. Still seeking. And that alone terrifies hell. Because it proves that what the enemy sent to destroy you actually activated you. You don't even know how many demons were frustrated when you chose to worship instead of collapse. How many plans unraveled when you stayed silent instead of retaliating. How many chains cracked when you whispered his name through tears. You are more dangerous to darkness than you realize. Even now, just hearing this truth is shifting something in you. Not emotionally, spiritually. A part of you is waking up. A deeper knowing is rising. You're not just surviving, you're stepping into awareness. And that awareness is what the enemy fears most. Because once you know who you are, you stop entertaining what you're not. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand you. You stop shrinking to fit into rooms that can't hold your mantle. You stop compromising your light just to make others comfortable in their darkness. The devil's strategy wasn't just to wound you, it was to confuse you, to make you question if you're really chosen, if you really heard God, if you really matter. He tried to make you forget what heaven already confirmed. But hear this now, and let it sink deep. You are not mistaken about what you felt in your spirit. You are not crazy for still believing in the promise. You are not broken beyond repair. You are called. You are covered. You are dangerous. And you are rising. The pressure was proof. The attack was evidence. The suffering was sacred. You weren't just going through something. You were being built into someone. And now, the storm that came to destroy you is testifying that it couldn't succeed. The weapons were formed. Yes, but they did not prosper. The trap was set, but it could not close. Because even in the fire, you were never outnumbered. As confirmed in the second book of Kings, chapter 6, verse 16, do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. You weren't alone. You weren't overpowered. You were surrounded by angels, by purpose, by promise. So now the enemy knows his window has closed. What he tried to stop, he actually helped ignite. The pain you endured became the place heaven planted boldness. The confusion you faced became the place heaven birthed clarity. And the fear you once bowed to, it now bows to the one who walks with you. You were hidden for a time, not because you weren't ready, but because the environment around you wasn't. The hiding wasn't punishment. It was protection. While others were being promoted, while doors were opening for people around you, while visibility became the measure of worth, you remained unseen. Yet, covered, set apart. And maybe you started to question it. You saw others running with what seemed like less oil, less reverence, less depth, and still they were platformed while you stayed in the shadows. You wondered, did I miss it? Did I disqualify myself? Did God forget me? No, he didn't forget. He was shielding you. He wasn't ignoring your gifts. He was guarding your purity. He wasn't rejecting your calling. He was refining your character. There are seasons when heaven covers what hell cannot counterfeit. And you, chosen one, were covered intentionally, because what you carry is weighty. It can't be mishandled. It can't be marketed too early. There's a process for carrying glory, and shortcuts in that process produce people who collapse under pressure. You weren't hidden because you were small. You were hidden because your roots were growing deep. Visibility means nothing without spiritual infrastructure. God didn't want to raise you fast. He wanted to raise you right. So while others sprinted forward, you were stretched downward. While others gained followers, you were gaining foundation. He let your voice develop in silence. He let your discernment sharpen in isolation. He let your heart break where no one could see it, so that your healing wouldn't become performance. And all along, the angel assigned to you remained near, not idle active. While you cried out in confusion, he was clearing traps. While you prayed for clarity, he was disarming sabotage. While you fasted in the secret place, he was being equipped with heavenly tools to war on your behalf. There were moments you wanted the spotlight, but heaven said, "Not yet," because the stage can crush what hasn't been sanctified. And God loves you too much to give you exposure without endurance. You weren't being left behind, you were being anchored. Anchored in truth, anchored in identity, anchored in authority that doesn't waver when applause fades. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of strategy. It wasn't wasted, it was worship in disguise. Because sometimes the purest worship sounds like, "God, I'll wait even when I don't understand." Oh, and that's what you did. You waited. You wept. You obeyed without attention. You stayed faithful when nobody was clapping. And every time you thought the delay meant denial, God was whispering, "I'm building something that will last." Oh, he wasn't just building ministry. He was building you. Your patience, your posture, your priorities. He was stripping you of the need to be seen so that when the moment of visibility came, it wouldn't corrupt you. Because what's coming will bring visibility, but you'll be grounded when it does. You won't chase platforms. You'll carry presence. You won't seek influence. You'll walk in impact. You won't need crowds to confirm you. You'll have heaven's endorsement etched into your spirit. And let this be clear, your hidden season is not shameful. It is sacred. You weren't hiding in fear. You were hidden in him. The secret place was never a prison, it was a greenhouse, where roots went deep, where identity became unshakable, where intimacy became oxygen. Scripture gives language to this in the book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 5. "For in the day of trouble he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his sacred tent and set me high upon a rock." And, you see, hiding was never about delay. It was about elevation. And now the atmosphere is shifting. The ground you've stood on for so long in waiting is beginning to break open, not with noise but with timing. The appointed hour is drawing near, and the angel that shielded you is now positioned to announce you, not with fanfare, with authority, not with chaos, with confirmation, not for performance, for purpose. And when God brings you out of hiding, he doesn't whisper it, he establishes it. He sets you in places you didn't network your way into. He places you in rooms you couldn't have forced open, not because you chased it, but because he trusts you with it. You're not rising because of strategy. You're rising because of submission. And now, The very voice that told you to wait will be the same voice that says, "Now, go." End of. So if you've been hidden, covered, tucked away, take heart. It wasn't silence. It was set up. And heaven never hides what it doesn't intend to reveal in glory. This is your Exodus moment. You've dwelled in the land of limitation long enough. You've camped in the territory of confusion, delay, and emotional exhaustion. You've lingered near pain that no longer serves you, around voices that only remind you of who you used to be. But now, something sacred is stirring. Something ancient is being reactivated in your spirit. The angel has gone ahead of you not to keep you comfortable, but to make a way where there was no way. The patterns are breaking. The cycles are ending. You are being called out of what once had you trapped, not just physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally. God is no longer asking for your survival. He is commanding your departure. What used to feel like home now feels tight, because it was never meant to contain your calling. You are in the space between bondage and breakthrough. And now, heaven is opening the exit. But only those who move will cross over. You don't belong in Egypt anymore. Egypt was the place of just enough, the place of forced labor and spiritual fatigue, the place where you tried to blend in while secretly breaking inside. But God did not deliver you so you could camp next to captivity. He delivered you so you could walk free. Chosen one, your freedom has already been written, but heaven will not force your feet to move. This is the tension you feel. You've been loosed in the spirit, but fear still speaks in your mind. You hear whispers like, "Maybe I'm not ready." And, "What if I fail again? What if it's too late?" But let truth drown out every lie. You are not late. You are not under judgment. You are not disqualified. You are simply at the gate, and the gate is open. As it is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19. "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." God is not fixing your old path. He is forming a new one. He is not reviving what died. He is replacing it with something greater. But you must leave behind what once felt familiar. The angel didn't go ahead just to clear bushes and block enemies. He went ahead to establish timing. There is a moment for release, and you're in it. But be warned, familiarity is a powerful drug. Sometimes, we long for the very things we begged God to free us from, because bondage, though painful, was predictable. And freedom requires faith. It requires walking forward before all the answers arrive. It requires obedience without explanation. You're being called to walk away from the familiar and into the unknown, not because it's easy, but because it's holy. Don't miss this moment repeating old patterns. Don't return to what almost killed you. Don't rebuild what God tore down. The reason you're uncomfortable is because your assignment is incompatible with your old identity. Who you were cannot carry who you're becoming. Your exodus isn't just about leaving, it's about becoming. Becoming bold, becoming clear, becoming whole, becoming the one heaven always said you were, but to become, you must depart. So right here before we move forward, mark this moment. Speak not just to yourself, but into the atmosphere. Declare it in faith. You don't need to explain everything to everyone. Just let heaven and hell know where you stand. Comment, "I'm stepping out." That simple sentence carries power in the spirit. It says, I'm no longer waiting for everything to make sense. It says, I trust the cloud more than I fear the wilderness. It says, I would rather be in the unknown with God than in comfort without Him. It says, I'm done circling the same place, the same pain, the same pattern. It says, I'm ready to become who I was born, to be without delay, without excuse. You don't need all the answers. You just need momentum. The angel has already gone ahead. The path is cleared. The gate is open. The signal has been given. Now, heaven waits for your movement. You're not stepping into the dark, you're stepping into the divine. And with every step forward, chains break, clarity increases, and your name echoes where it was once silenced. But only you can take the first step. So if this word burns in your spirit, say it, type it, mean it. Let it be your declaration. Let it be your first move. I'm stepping out. Nah, you're not late, you're right on time. It may not feel that way. You may be surrounded by people who seem further along. You may look at your age, your timeline, your mistakes, and wonder if you missed something. You may scroll through highlight reels and think, why does everyone else seem ahead while I'm still waiting? But let this truth interrupt the lie. Heaven is not in a hurry, and you are right on divine schedule. Every closed door, every no, every silence has been strategic. You didn't fall behind, you were being preserved. You didn't waste time, you were being aligned. Even the detours weren't wasted. They were part of the route, part of heaven's navigation. You've asked, why is it taking so long? But the better question is, why am I still here? And the answer is simple. Because grace held you. The pressure should have crushed you. The heartbreak should have shut you down. The spiritual warfare should have taken you out. But you're still here. And that alone is evidence of God's hand over your life. Because in the kingdom, delay is never denial. It's often a sign that what's coming carries weight. As written in Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Heaven has never rushed what it values. And what God is birthing through you is not casual, it's generational. That's why you couldn't skip the process. That's why the breakthrough didn't come quickly. That's why others seemed to pass you by. Because you weren't being lifted, you were being anchored. And now the timing is shifting. The angel that went ahead of you wasn't just clearing enemies, was arranging moments, appointments, alignments. The things that once felt locked are quietly beginning to open. The doors you couldn't pry open are now moving at the sound of your obedience. You're not stepping into chaos, you're stepping into prepared places. And the more you yield, the more you'll see that God didn't make you wait to punish you. He made you wait to prepare everything around you. This is why it matters that you stay connected. These messages are not random. They are carefully timed, divine echoes, reaching you at moments when your faith flickers. So if this word has stirred something in your spirit, don't let it vanish when you scroll. Like it, because that one click signals to the unseen realm that you're in agreement. Share it, because someone else is where you were a few months ago, praying for a sign. Subscribe, because this is more than a video. It's a lifeline. And sometimes, you don't need more noise, you need the next word. And if this ministry has been feeding your soul, if these moments have brought clarity or breakthrough, and you've been wondering how to give back, not out of pressure, but out of love, consider giving There's no price tag on anointing, but there is a cost to carry it forward. Every seed sown, whether through generosity, encouragement, or simply sharing, becomes part of this mission. A mission that's reaching the forgotten, the broken, the almost gave up ones. People just like you, who thought they were too late. Until heaven whispered, "You're right on time." No, you don't have to give big to make impact. Sometimes, giving looks like a silent prayer. Sometimes it looks like pushing this message further with one small gift. Sometimes, it's a simple message that says, "Don't stop." No. And if giving isn't your assignment in this moment, that's okay too. Your presence is already prophetic. But if God nudges you even gently, don't ignore that nudge. Obedience is rarely loud, but it is always powerful. This isn't about helping a platform, it's about partnering with heaven to keep truth flowing into weary places. And if you've received something today, know that what you release back, even quietly, multiplies far beyond you. So hear me clearly, you haven't missed it. You haven't messed it up. You are not behind. You are right where you need to be, at the edge of something sacred. You are being summoned into movement, not by pressure, but by purpose. And the angel that went ahead, he's waiting where heaven is calling you next. You're not too late. You're just on time for glory. Not the kind of glory the world chases. Not the glory of applause, status, or spotlight, but the kind of glory that comes from obedience. The kind that rests on people who said yes in private. The kind that shifts generations because someone decided to trust God instead of timelines. You didn't miss the window. You are the window. You didn't arrive late. You arrived ready. Every scar is now a signpost. Every delay is now a testimony. You are not starting over. You're stepping into something that was waiting for you to become who you are now. And heaven is watching. Step forward. This is your time. Divine reversal is in motion. You may not see it yet, but something has already begun to turn. In the spirit, things are being reordered. What was upside down is being set upright. What was withheld is being released. What was broken is being restored, not in pieces, but in fullness. You have entered a season where the hand of God is correcting what hell tried to corrupt. The shame that hovered over you like a shadow is lifting. The voices that tried to define you are being silenced. Every lie that attached itself to your identity is being stripped away. And in its place, heaven is rewriting the narrative with truth, with purpose, with justice. This is not compensation. This is recompense. God is not giving you back what you lost in the same form. He's giving you back what you couldn't even articulate you needed. He's restoring the years, the strength, the dignity, the peace, not as a transaction, but as a revelation of who He is. You've cried out for healing, but He's doing more than healing. You're being made whole. You've asked for answers, but He's doing more than explaining. He's redeeming. You've prayed for closure, but He's doing more than closing doors. He's rebuilding foundations. What you thought was gone forever is being returned in a form that honors the process you went through, because God never wastes pain, and He never leaves injustice unanswered. The same way He heard Abel's blood cry from the ground, He has heard the cry of your life, the parts you didn't speak aloud, the things you whispered into your pillow, the groans too deep for words. And now, heaven is responding not with noise, but with reversal, as declared in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. Years, not minutes, not days. Years. Because God doesn't just give back moments. He gives back meaning. He knows how to make up for the time you thought was lost. He knows how to redeem the relationships, the opportunities, even the versions of you that were stolen by trauma or silenced by fear. And this reversal isn't just happening around you, it's happening within you. Your thoughts are being rewired. Your self-worth is being restored. Your discernment is being sharpened. Your voice is rising again, not from bitterness, but from boldness. You're not who you were when the trial began. You've been stretched, refined, emptied of pride and filled with power. You may not feel ready, but that's because God doesn't work through feelings, He works through surrender. And the moment you agreed to stay, even when it hurt, even when it didn't make sense, even when no one saw it, heaven recorded it. The reversal began the day you refused to curse God in your wilderness. It deepened the day you blessed Him in your loss. It accelerated the moment you forgave what nearly destroyed you. You see, the justice of heaven is not like the justice of earth. God doesn't just balance scales, He restores identity. He doesn't just repay what was taken, He elevates what remained. And that's what's happening now. The oil you carry wasn't just formed through brokenness, it was preserved through fire. The authority you walk in now didn't come from title, it came from consistency in secret. The wisdom you speak wasn't learned through comfort, it was forged in obedience. And this is why the reversal is irreversible. Because it's not based on chance, it's based on covenant. It's not the result of circumstances aligning, it's the result of heaven declaring. It's not because you worked for it, it's because Jesus paid for it. You're stepping into something you didn't build, but you're qualified to carry it now. Not because you performed well, but because you endured. Because you refused to die in bitterness. Because you chose love when hate would have been easier. Because you said yes. Again and again. Even when everything in you wanted to quit. Now the tables are turning. What tried to drown you will now promote you. What tried to silence you will now amplify your message. What tried to humiliate you will now highlight God's glory through you. You are the evidence that reversal is not only possible, it's promised. This is not just recovery. This is recompense. This is not just a return. This is divine vengeance served with mercy. And it is already in motion. Don't turn. Back, mercy is moving. This is not the time to second guess what heaven already settled. You've come too far, survived too much, endured more than most people know. You didn't make it through the fire to return to the ashes. You didn't walk out of Egypt to volunteer for slavery again. You are standing in a moment that many never reach, the place between where you were and where you're going, and mercy is pulling you forward. There's always a temptation to look back, to wonder if the old comfort was safer, if the old version of you was easier to carry, if returning to what's familiar is better than trusting the unfamiliar. But hear this clearly, not everything that feels safe is sacred, and not everything that feels hard is harmful. The tension you're in is proof that transformation is happening. You've been stretched, called, refined, and now the voices of fear want to convince you to retreat, to rationalize your way out of destiny, to go back to what doesn't require faith. But you can't go back. Not now. Not after what God has done to get you here. Not after the angel went ahead of you to prepare a path your enemies can't follow you on. Looking back isn't just about nostalgia, it's spiritual rebellion. Lot's wife didn't turn into a pillar of salt because she missed her friends. She turned because her heart was still entangled with what God told her to leave. Her body moved, but her soul stayed behind. And that is not your story. You don't just want change, you've been changed. What used to lure you no longer satisfies you. What used to numb the pain no longer works. You're not the same person who started this journey. And that's why going back isn't even truly possible. It would require undoing a transformation heaven already completed in you. Mercy is moving. And when mercy moves, don't hesitate. As it is spoken in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 38, "But my righteous one shall live by faith, and if he draws back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him." Oh, these are not light words. Heaven takes movement seriously. And right now, mercy is flowing in a direction and you're being invited to move with it. But if you resist, if you pause too long, if you linger in spaces God is no longer in you, begin to drift, not physically, spiritually. Every time you say, "Maybe I'll wait a bit longer," you're not delaying time, you're delaying transformation. Don't turn back to people who only loved your silence. Don't return to habits that made you feel strong but left your spirit dry. Don't rebuild what God shattered in order to protect you. It's not just disobedience, it's spiritual danger. Because when mercy moves forward and you remain behind, you become vulnerable, uncovered, out of sync. And that's when confusion creeps in. That's when the voice of the enemy gets louder. That's when you start entertaining lies like, "Maybe I was wrong about the call," or "Maybe I'm not strong enough for this," or "Maybe comfort is better than obedience," or "But chosen one, if you could see what's ahead, you wouldn't even blink at what's behind." There are divine alignments waiting for your yes. There are provisions, relationships, revelations, all connected to your forward movement. This isn't about hype, it's about heaven's strategy. You've come too far to give in to backward thinking. This is your final warning. Not from fear, from love. Heaven's mercy is active, and it doesn't pause forever. It moves, it covers, but it doesn't camp where there's rebellion. You're not being pushed, you're being invited. Invited into fullness, into fire, into freedom, into purpose, into the very thing your soul has cried out for. So mark this moment. Let it echo in the spirit that you're not going back. Comment 555. Why 555? Because it signifies grace in motion, mercy flowing, heaven aligning things faster than you understand. It means you're not just being rescued, you're being redirected. You're not stuck, you're standing at the edge of something holy. Comment 555 as a prophetic response. Not because you're perfect, but because you're deciding. You're done circling old mountains, done rehearsing old battles, done longing for old comfort. You are not turning back. Mercy is moving, and you are moving with it. Comment now 555. Let it be written in heaven. You chose forward. You've been set apart to disrupt. From the very beginning, you were marked not for comfort, not for applause, but for disruption. You were sent to break cycles, shift atmospheres, and confront patterns that have ruled your family line, your community, and even spiritual spaces where people have grown far too used to silence. Your very existence has been an interruption to darkness, and that's why the resistance has been so fierce. You don't just carry light, you expose darkness. And exposure always invites opposition, because darkness can tolerate passivity. It can tolerate compromise. But what it cannot coexist with is someone who walks in truth unapologetically, unshakably, and uncontrollably. That's you. That's what you've been fashioned for. Even in your lowest moments, you were dangerous. Even when you doubted everything. Even when your own identity felt like a blur. Even when your hands were shaking, hell still recognized who you were. Not because of your performance, but because of your assignment. You weren't made to keep the peace. You were made to carry the sword of spiritual authority. Not to tear down people, but to tear down strongholds. You're not here to blend in. You're here to break the atmosphere open, to speak where silence has become comfortable, to live holy where compromise has become culture. That's why you've never truly fit in. You could be in a crowd and still feel alone. You could go along with the group and still feel the tension in your spirit, because something in you always knew, I'm not supposed to do it like them. And you were right. Your calling has always demanded separation. Not separation in pride, but separation in purpose. You weren't meant to walk the easy road. You were called to take the narrow path, the one few find, the one that costs something but leads to eternal weight. And now, more than ever, that distinction is becoming clearer. The spaces you used to tolerate feel heavier. The relationships that used to comfort you now feel shallow. Your spirit is rejecting what your flesh used to crave. Why? Because heaven is refining the vessel. The mantle over you is not decorative, it's disruptive. Your presence disrupts passivity. Your voice disrupts religion. Your prayer life disrupts generational patterns. Your silence disrupts manipulation. Your discernment disrupts deception. That's why people react to you without knowing why. That's why rooms shift when you walk in. That's why you've been misunderstood, because spiritual things are spiritually discerned. The oil on your life was not cheap. It was pressed through seasons of crushing, betrayal, and isolation. And now, that oil isn't just for your healing, it's for the confrontation of darkness. God did not spare you from the fire just so you could play it safe. He brought you through it so you could ignite others, so you could walk into dry places and watch revival break out, so you could carry breakthrough into rooms that have been stagnant for years. This is why comfort will never satisfy you again. You've tasted the weight of glory. You've felt the sting of obedience. You've been awakened to the cost of carrying presence. And now, heaven will not let you go back to surface-level living. You were never called to do what's easy. You were called to do what's eternal. As declared in the first letter of Peter, chapter 2, verse 9, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. This isn't symbolic, it's strategic. You have been set apart, not just to survive darkness, but to confront it with unshakable light, to carry glory into places that forgot what glory looks like, to stand where others sit, to speak when others are silent. Your life was never meant to be digestible to everyone. You were designed to confront powers and principalities, and you don't need a microphone to do it. Sometimes, your obedience in private shakes more than a sermon ever could. You are a disruptor because you carry a realm others cannot see. You walk with heaven's weight in earthly spaces. You don't entertain darkness, you evict it. You're not intense. You're consecrated. You're not too much. You're anointed. You're not overly sensitive. You're spiritually alert. And it's time you stop apologizing for it. The people who are truly sent to walk with you will not be intimidated by your fire. They'll honor it. They'll recognize it, because the same flame burns in them. But even if no one sees it, even if no one affirms it, even if you walk alone for a while, do not dim it. Chosen one, you weren't just born to believe. You were born to disrupt. And heaven has trusted you with the weight to do so. Heaven has called you by name, not a general call, not a vague spiritual invitation, a personal, precise summons from the throne of God itself. Before anyone on earth knew you, heaven did. Before your voice ever filled a room, your name filled the heavens. And that name's, spoken with divine intention, carries weight in realms both seen and unseen. This calling was never about performance. It was never about earning approval or qualifying by perfection. It was about identity. Who you are not, who others said you should be. God didn't wait for you to be ready. He didn't wait for you to clean yourself up, heal every wound, or feel worthy. He spoke your name when you were still in hiding, when you were still unsure, when you were still wrestling with whether any of this was even real. And yet, the call came. Even now, you can trace it back moments when you felt something stirring, tugging, breaking inside of you. A shift in atmosphere, a spiritual nudge. Times when you couldn't explain it, but something in you whispered, "There's more." That wasn't coincidence. That was calling, and calling always begins in obscurity. Moses heard his name from a burning bush in the wilderness. Samuel heard his name whispered in the dark before he knew how to respond. Mary heard her name from an angel in a moment of complete stillness. God doesn't need a crowd to call you. In fact, He often waits until everything is quiet, so you'll know it's Him and no one else. And when He speaks your name, it's not just an address, it's an assignment. Heaven didn't call you to observe. It called you to walk in authority, to know who you are, not just in title, but in truth. You're not chosen because you're talented. You're chosen because you were called out, set apart to carry something the world cannot fabricate. That's why others couldn't define you. That's why you never quite fit into their mold. That's why every time you tried to water yourself down, something in you felt hollow. Because heaven was never going to let you succeed in being someone you're not. You were not called to copy. You were called to carry the weight of glory, the voice of God, the fragrance of holiness. You don't walk like others because you don't belong to the crowd. You belong to the King. And when you belong to the King, obscurity is not rejection, it's refinement. Delay is not denial, it's divine timing. The call that marked your life didn't come from man, so it cannot be revoked by man. They may overlook you. They may question you. They may even mock what you carry. But they cannot cancel what God has spoken. The Father is not confused about who you are. He's not second-guessing His choice. When He called your name, He factored in every detour, every failure, every wound, and still said, "I want that one." And, as declared in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 1, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." And let that sink in. You are His. Not when you're flawless, not when you're strong, not when you're popular or platformed or praised. You were His when you were hiding. You were His when you doubted. You were His when you were still tangled in the mess you didn't know how to escape. And still, He called you. Heaven's calling is not about performance, it's about permission. When God calls you, He gives you access to walk in places your past should have disqualified you from, to speak into territories you never studied for, to carry presence into atmospheres others have avoided. You don't need credentials when you have God's command. And now, your name echoes in places your feet haven't even reached yet. The angel who went ahead of you has already spoken your name where it needs to be known. Not for popularity, but for positioning. Not for ego, but for eternal impact. There is weight on your name, not because of who you've been, but because of who you belong to. And when God calls a name, all of heaven listens. Angels move. Assignments shift. Favor is released. Warfare intensifies, but protection surrounds. Because when God calls a name, it means something is about to shift on the earth. You're not called by mistake. You're not being prepared for a small purpose. And you're not living in the background anymore. God has spoken your name, and now the earth will respond. Chosen one. The silence was never the absence of God, it was the incubation of your identity. And now that the call has gone out, your steps are being ordered. You've been called, and heaven does not whisper in vain. There is a mantle of fire resting over your life now. Not a metaphor, not a moment of emotion. A real, spiritual mantle placed upon you by heaven itself. It is weighty, it is holy, it is unmistakable. And whether others see it or not, hell does. You've been clothed in something that cannot be imitated and will not be removed. This is not just gifting. This is not talent or charisma. This is divine authority purchased in the fire, confirmed in the secret place, and now resting on you for impact. You've wondered, why do I feel heavier lately? Why do normal things drain me? Why do old conversations feel empty? It's because the mantle shifted. You're carrying more now, not in burden, but in power. And when power rests on you, things around you begin to react. People pull away. Atmospheres shift. Old distractions stop working. It's not rejection, it's realignment. The oil on your life has increased. And that means everything not assigned to your destiny is being peeled off. Often without your permission. There is fire in your eyes now, not born from pride, but from pain, refined through trial, cleansed by surrender, fed by prayer. You don't look the same in the spirit realm. That is exactly why you feel the tension. You were not called to wear a mantle and stay silent. You were called to move with it, to minister with it, to war with it, to live differently because of it. This fire was not given so you could impress it, was given so you could disrupt and deliver. It marks you, yes, but it also protects you. What touches others cannot touch you the same. What intimidates others cannot enter where the fire covers. And yes, it will cost you. The fire is not light. It burns away the unnecessary. It purifies your motives. It humbles your flesh. The greater the mantle, the deeper the surrender. But oh, what a joy to carry what others fear, to host what others resist, to be trusted by heaven with something so real that even your silence carries weight. Chosen one. There is a fire resting on you that demands attention in the realm of the Spirit. You don't need to convince anyone of it. You don't need to prove it to those who doubt Fire testifies for itself. It draws those assigned to your life and repels those who only came for your weakness. As the word declares in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 20, verse 9, "But his word was in my heart like a burning fire, shut up in my bones. I was weary of holding it back, and I could not." You know this feeling. The burning inside, the ache to say what others won't say, the pressure in your chest when you try to stay silent. That's not emotion, that's fire. And now, it's time to move with it. So if this message is confirming what your spirit already knows, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it, subscribe to stay connected. There are others who carry this same weight, but no language for it yet. Your simple act of sharing could be the spark that ignites someone else's confirmation. And if this stream of prophetic truth has become nourishment for your soul, consider sowing into it, not out of obligation, but out of alignment. We rarely speak on giving, but let's be honest, words like these don't come from content strategy. They come from consecration, from time in the secret place, from cost. When you give, you're not funding a brand, you're fueling a voice that's disrupting darkness. Every dollar becomes a declaration. Keep speaking, keep burning, keep reaching those who think they've been forgotten by heaven. And every small act of support, whether financial, verbal, or spiritual, is noticed, not by algorithms, but by God. So if you've received something real, something alive, something holy, respond. Your response may not be loud, but it is recorded in heaven. And that matters more than anything, because this isn't about a message, it's about a mantle, and you're carrying it now. This fire is your responsibility, but you're not alone in it. There is a remnant, rising marked ones, fire bearers, the unshaken. Stay connected, stay submitted, stay obedient, and never, ever apologize for the weight of what you carry. Let them misunderstand. Let them walk away. Let them laugh if they must. The fire won't leave to make them comfortable. It stays. It grows. It consumes everything in you that was never meant to survive the call. You are not small. You are not quiet. You are not ordinary. You are on fire. And this fire has purpose. Let it burn. Let it speak. Let it draw the right ones near. You are the fulfillment of a promise. Long before you took your first breath. Long before the battle began. Long before you knew the name of Jesus, someone cried out for you. Someone wept for the future of their family. Someone bent their knees in a dark room and whispered, "Lord, send someone who won't quit. Send someone who will break the cycle." And heaven heard them. You are not an accident. You are an answer. You may have grown up in brokenness, but you are the breakthrough. You may have come through chaos, but you carry clarity. You may have survived trauma, but you hold truth. The things that tried to destroy you were simply the evidence of how critical your arrival was. You were born into a battle already in progress, and still you rose. You rose when they left you. You rose when the shame was heavy. You rose when the enemy tried to silence you with fear and failure. Because somewhere in your spirit, even in your confusion, you knew, I'm not just living for myself. You've always carried a sense that your life was tied to something bigger, something eternal. And that something is the very reason you couldn't quit. Even when you wanted to, God didn't just choose you for personal victory. He chose you for generational transformation. The pain you've walked through wasn't just about you, was about the patterns that had to die in you, so they wouldn't live in your bloodline. You've been fighting things your ancestors never defeated, breaking mindsets your family carried for decades, healing wounds no one before you had the language to name. You are the turning point in a story that started before you. You are the fulfillment of prayers whispered by people who never got to see the answer with their own eyes, but they believed anyway. And now, that belief lives in you. This is not pressure, it's holy purpose. You don't carry the weight of their expectations. You carry the oil of their intercession. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to be different, willing to surrender, willing to walk away from what they accepted as normal and say, "Not anymore, not on my watch." You've already started shifting atmospheres simply by being who you are. When you pray, things break. When you speak, clarity comes. When you worship, demons flee. Why? Because you're not operating in your own strength. You're standing on generations of longing, sacrifice, and hope, as spoken in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 13. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. You are what they saw from a distance. You are the someday they held on to. You are the echo of their hope. And now, you get to walk in what they only dreamed about. Let that settle in your spirit. You're not starting from scratch. You're stepping into legacy. You're not weak. You've been reinforced by the groans of those who came before. Every victory you win, every lie you silence, every boundary you redraw, it ripples backward and forward. It tells the past, your pain was not wasted, and tells the future, you'll walk in freedom I never had. That's why the warfare has been generational. That's why the attack felt ancient. Because it was. Hell saw you coming. It knew the weight of your arrival. It knew that if you ever realized who you were, nothing would ever be the same again. You weren't just born. You were sent. Sent into a family line to disrupt patterns. Sent into a region to carry purity. Sent into a generation to stand for righteousness without apology. You didn't ask for this, but your obedience is unlocking doors for people who don't even know your name. That's what legacy feels like. It's quiet, but it's permanent. It doesn't always come with applause, but it alters bloodlines, and heaven takes it seriously. You are not just carrying a calling, you are carrying a promise kept. So when you feel weary, remember, this didn't start with you, and it won't end with you. You are a continuation of faith, a testimony in motion, a seed that became a harvest. God didn't let you die in the wilderness because He intends for you to bring others out of it. And when they ask how you got here, don't talk about your strength. Talk about grace. Talk about the hands that held you when you couldn't stand. Talk about the prayers you never heard, but now realize you're walking in. Chosen one. You are living proof that God doesn't forget. You are the fulfillment of a promise, and your story is still being written in glory. The angel went first, but now you must obey. This is not a metaphor. It is a spiritual principle. Heaven doesn't waste movement. If an angel was dispatched ahead of you, it means the path has been carved. The traps have been broken. The terrain has been made ready. But none of it matters if you don't take the next step. This is the tension where many fall between divine preparation and human hesitation. It's easier to pray for signs than it is to move. It's easier to ask for more confirmation than it is to obey the one thing God already said. But obedience is the only language the next season understands. And here's what most people miss. The angel who was sent ahead won't come back and drag you forward. He's not assigned to convince you. He's assigned to clear. And he has done his part. Now it's your turn. This is the moment where spiritual maturity is revealed not by how much you know, but by how deeply you trust. Can you walk into what you don't fully understand? Can you step into something before it looks secure? Can you follow the whisper instead of waiting for a shout? The angel was never the destination. He was the signal that movement had begun. And now you stand at the edge of something sacred. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. God never promised comfort. He promised presence. He never said it would make sense. He said he would go with you. And that is enough. You've heard the call. You've seen the signs. You've felt the stirrings in your spirit when the atmosphere shifts. You know when something is God, not because it's familiar, but because it awakens something eternal inside you. That's what this is. No more waiting for the conditions to be perfect. No more asking for permission from people who aren't assigned to your destiny. No more shrinking to make others comfortable. The path is clear. The angel has gone ahead. All of heaven is watching to see if you'll move. As written in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19, I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. It's your choice now, not just for you, but for those who come after you. Your obedience will write the first chapter of someone else's freedom. Your yes will give language to someone else's confusion. Your courage will shift the climate in rooms you haven't even entered yet. But obedience is rarely glamorous. It often looks like leaving the familiar behind, like walking into a calling that doesn't come with applause, like standing in a place no one understands, carrying something no one else can explain. And yet, this is the cost of being set apart. You are not common. You are not ordinary. You are not here to live small and stay hidden forever. You are here to reflect glory, to walk in fire, to release truth. And heaven has waited patiently for your surrender. The angel didn't go ahead for your entertainment. He went for your assignment. The presence of God has already marked this path. It will not be easy, but it will be anointed. Every step you take in obedience will echo beyond you. Chains will break. Atmospheres will shift. Seeds will be planted in soil that's been dry for generations. This is what you were born for. Not to impress, but to impact. Not to entertain, but to intercede. Not to survive, but to shift systems and usher in glory. And all of it begins when you decide that delayed obedience is no longer acceptable. This is your Jordan River moment. The water won't part until your foot touches it. You won't see the fruit until you sow the step. The miracle isn't in the preparation, it's in the movement. The angel went first, but the fire falls on the obedient. Don't look to the left or right. Don't compare your pace. Don't question what's already been confirmed. You know too much. You've seen too much. You've heard too much to stay still. Now step, not because you're fearless, but because you're convinced. Not because you're ready, but because you're willing. Not because it's easy, but because it's God. Obedience will always cost you something, but disobedience costs more. And today, all of heaven leans in not to pressure you, but to witness what you choose. The path is clear. The angel has gone. The fire is ready. Now move. Chosen one. If you've made it this far, it wasn't just curiosity that kept you reading it, was calling. Your spirit recognized something eternal, woven between every word. You didn't just receive information, you received confirmation. This wasn't a script. It was a summons. And now that heaven has spoken, the only thing left is your response. You don't need a spotlight to be obedient. You don't need a crowd to be powerful. But you do need alignment. And staying connected to messages like this helps protect that alignment. So if this word stirred something in you like it, let your agreement echo. Share it. Someone you know is waiting for a message they can't even explain yet. Subscribe so you don't miss what heaven releases next, because this is only the beginning. And if you feel led, not by pressure, but by purpose, to partner with what God is doing hereso into this stream, every gift helps keep this message going further, deeper, and wider. We don't give to buy blessing, we give to honor the presence we just encountered. Whether it's a donation, a comment, or a prayer, it all speaks in the Spirit. Comment below. Testify. Declare. Mark the moment. Let the earth and the heavens record. I heard the call, and I will not turn back. This wasn't just for your encouragement. It was for your activation. Heaven has moved. The angel has gone. The word has been released. Now let your response begin. The next chapter